Good morning. Our hand today is going to be King 10 of Spades. This is normally a hand that I would play, but under the gun open raises. And when we have an open raise range early position and we are early position player, you can see King 10 is not in our calling range. Calling range would be gray. That's our call or 3-bet range. We show under the gun a lot of respect for raising. However, we can also see that this player is playing a lot of race first in from early position more than what he should be playing. Looks like possibly he is. It's. I think this is the same player that we had earlier this week, where he does raise a lot. Just kind of tries to take advantage of the fact that under the gun is usually viewed as being very tight. So I gave him a range that looks something like this. This is 44%. It's a big range. I do not think this is his opening range in mid position at all, or maybe even like under the gun plus two. Maybe not even under the gun +1. But this is definitely a big range, and I think that's what we're gonna work with. So against this range, King 10 could be easily a 3-bet. 3-bet, get a heads up versus him. We're going to be in position. We've got a pretty good hand. We've got high card strength. We've got connectedness, suitedness. That could be a good hand to play against him. But you can see I have only 13 hands at the table at this point. If I was paying attention more closely, maybe I could make that 3-bet. So he gets two calls. He gets a call from cutoff and then a call from the big blind. Cutoff's playing 29-17, which isn't much. We only have 72 hands on him. We have a 3-bet range of 8s. We've got some information that he raises flop c-bet with overpair or less. That he barrels with air all the way to the river. We've got VPIP cut off 13%. Again, just look at the number of hands. There's not a huge number of hands. His 3-bet, 2 out of 28. We do have a note that he 3-bets 8s. And I thought maybe with that 3-bet range, that would have been one of the times where he was in the big blind. Because he raised from the button and he raised in the big blind. Well, I think if he's raised in the big blind, it could be against a steal. So maybe his 8s happened when he was on the button. So that kind of set up the range that looks something like this, the calling range. If he had 8s in his raising range, then 3-betting range, then I think it's going to be something maybe like this. I could be way off. I'm going to adjust this as we talk here. But I think it's going to be a calling range is going to be somewhat weak, low pocket pairs, some offsuit hand or connected hands in some way. We're just going to go with that range. Big blind's playing 50-17. You can see he's just playing a lot of hands, called 2 out of 2 from the big blind. I think he's going to be pretty wide. And I went with this. He hasn't 3-bet, but I'm going to assume that queens plus ace king, typical 3-betting range. We're going to go with that with this range. So flop comes down, queen 7-7. Now, if we had king 10 and we raised and we were heads up, he checks us. I would bet this. I would bet this board. We've got a backdoor flush. We've got some backdoor straight draws. We do have the king. We've got a 10 blocker, so and the king blocker, so kind of limits king queen. Really down to 2 combos, just the hearts and the hearts and the spades. No, not hearts and the clubs, because we had the spades. You don't really see queen jack in there. You have queen 10 is out. We've got a blocker for jack 10 and so forth. So yeah, I would probably see bet that if he checked to me. So villain 2 checks, and that's important. I think this guy's gonna check 100%. I think he could. He's got a 40% donk frequency. I do think maybe if he's gonna donk these queens with the weak kicker, and that is a possibility. But villain the under the gun player checks. So at that point, when he checks, his c-bet stat again, in positions 2 out of 2, out of positions 1 out of 7. I think since he has such a wide range, he's going to miss a lot. So I think he would have bet all of these top pairs. Probably he's got all of the rest of that. I'm going to exclude the flush draw because I think that is a good hand that he probably would have used to continue c-betting. So we're looking at a range that looks something like that, pretty darn weak. And then villain 5 checks. He has the opportunity to bet here. I think 3 of a kind definitely bets. And I think your top pair bets here. So that leaves everything else. I think flush draw could be betting here. We could scale it and say, I kind of expect flush to bet 50% of the time. And that could be reasonable. So right now we've narrowed 2 players' ranges because they checked. We did not narrow this player's range. So 4 of hearts comes out. Villain 1 checks. Now with this player checking, I think we still leave in all of his range. Yeah, I think the quads of full house probably would go for a check raise in this situation. Same thing with 3 of a kind. I think he would go for a check raise. Top pair is about the only one where I kind of expect maybe he would bet. So we can kind of take out those hands because I kind of think he would be betting those, and then he would have everything else. So 92%. Villain 2 checks again. Again, I don't think it changes much. I think it's still all of these weak hands. I'm just going to say 100%. And then villain 5 checks again. So I don't think a full house. I think we're going to go back. Yeah, we don't want a full house here, so we're just going to say 99.2%. He does not have a full house. He's got very weak hands. And we go to the river, which is the ace of spades. So yeah, we would have bet the flop. If he calls, we probably check behind on the turn since the turn card doesn't really help us. I mean, yeah, it's entirely likely that he could have a diamond draw if he calls, which the 4 doesn't really improve, and we could mix it up. I think we're gonna have other hands though that we would have continued with, so I don't think we're gonna be continuing with King 10 spades. We would check the turn and we would probably fold or check the river with our king. King spades. All right, so now this guy bets. At this point, he could have his big hands. His full house is 3 of a kinds. I think when he connects, he possibly goes for 3 of a kind. Actually, we're gonna go back to our turn. And we're gonna adjust it. So I think 100% full house probably just goes for the check raise, but I think 3 of a kind is going to be betting here with the 7. I don't think he's going to go for a check raise. I think he's going to be betting because of the diamond draw that's out there. I think a check raise would have been on the flop with any of the 7s. So we're going to go with that. So now he bets out. I think he could definitely have quads on a full house. I think here you've got a top pair hand that is going to be betting. Would all top pair hands? Maybe not. We'll say we'll narrow it down to ace 8 or better. And I think that's going to be his range, just real top pair. Villain 2 raises all of a sudden. And that means that I think he's going to have an ace. And I think with his raise, it's probably going to be ace jack or better. So really ace jack, ace king, I think is what his raising range is going to look like. Villain 5 folds, which doesn't really have a whole lot. I mean, more than 50% of the time he's going to miss. And then I expect with quads in a full house, he's going to come over the top, but with a top pair, he's just going to call. So at this point, he just calls. He's got a top pair. I think he has a top pair type hand. So he's got ace jack. He's got ace king. That's definitely in their ranges. It's just a question of how low do they go. How low does he go with the bet, the sky bet, and how low does he go when he raises? So we've got the hand here. Kind of, do you predict it? It would be hard for us with this guy having an ace of diamonds to get him off the hand, at least on the flop, because the diamond's out there. If a diamond came on the turn, it would be hard for us to get him off his hand at that point, because again, he has the nut flush blocker. So yeah, kind of thinking about how we would have played the hand if we were in it. Now, if we raised it, yeah, I think he's calling. I think this guy's folding. If we 3-bet pre-flop and he comes back with a 4-bet, we fold our hand. It's no questions asked. So what I think of the players, I think he played very weak. He has the ace of diamond blocker. I think you could go ahead and bet here. What you're doing is you've reduced the number of diamond draws that are out there. You've got overcards. You're trying to get, fold out all the other hands with just our ace king. I think you're going to accomplish that. I kind of feel like ace jack would fold to a c-bet, so he would have just won it right on the flop. Loses some EV, but I think that's probably the general play. So I kind of think he should have c-bet, and then on the turn you could check behind, and then on the ace when he leads, now you can raise again, and you're gonna make a little bit more. That assumes that ace jack calls. I think that's kind of the mistake that I see. Do I mind his call? No, not at all. If we go back pre-flop, it's only 1.5 big blinds to call. He only needs 19% equity. He's getting over 4 to 1. I think it's a suitable call, no problem. All right, so hopefully you enjoy the scene. Hopefully you work it out, work out your own ranges as we go through this, and I encourage you to do it with your own hands. If you like the scene, you can look tomorrow for another hand, and hopefully you have a good 4th of July.